Good afternoon. Welcome once again to the Game Line here on Wales Online. Plenty on the agenda today amid worries over Dan Biggar, fears the Six Nations might be about to go behind a paywall, and the small matter of the coronavirus. Here to discuss all that are Simon Thomas and Matthew Southcombe. Chaps, busy old time, isn't it? Busy couple of days. Let's start with the bigger news, Simon. The injury on the weekend playing for Northampton. It looked really bad at the time, but the waters have been muddied a little since. What's the latest?
It was like all of these things. You say it looked bad. It looked bad for us trying to follow it on Twitter, didn't it? Yeah, it wasn't live on television. I've still not seen any footage of the incident. I've spoken to Tom Vickers, who covers Northampton on a weekly basis. Obviously, Dan was playing for Northampton against Saracens. Well trod the reasons why. We won't go back into that. But in classic Biggar fashion, he went up high in the air, claimed the ball, came down. You've always wondered sometimes, all that aerial activity, one day, you fear an injury could come of it. And he's landed heavily. It sounds like his knee's hyperextended. Now, I spoke to a couple of fans, actually, Welsh fans, who, because their game was off, they went to watch Northampton, and they spoke to Dan after the game. And they said he was quite chipper, walked away, but being able to walk away and being able to face England at Twickenham is a different thing. Yeah. And he's obviously tweaked that knee. And the whispers are that he's probably going to be struggling. I think we don't know yet, and obviously you won't probably know until the medical update tomorrow, and there might not be clarification for definite there. But you've got to say he's very doubtful, which obviously means Wales are down in the squad to just one fit fly half, because Owen Williams has finished with the squad a few weeks ago. Anscombe's injured, Patchell's injured, so it's just Jared Evans at the moment. But we do know, because Sam let it slip, Sam Davis, when he was interviewed in Scrum 5 of the weekend, that he's been training with Wales over the last a week for a couple of days. He's been in, so you'd imagine that he would come in full time now. I would have thought to bolster the squad.
But based on what we know, if Biggar is out, Jared Evans would probably start at Twickenham. How do you feel about that? We all remember Rhys Patchell a couple of years ago with it, and what Eddie Jones did to him before the game had even started. It would be a massive ask, wouldn't it, for Jared?
Yeah, it'd be a huge ask for Jared Evans. I think if Dan Biggar's out, it changes the complexion of the whole week, the game, the occasion, and perhaps the rest of the Six Nations. I think if you go up there with Jared Evans and try to play to any sort of structure against England, then I think it's a bad day at the office. I've said on this show before that if you do play a more limited and structured game against England, their power game gets involved and it's curtains. So I think if you do go up there with Jared Evans at fly half, then I think you take the shackles off, you take the pressure off entirely. You say go out there, risk everything, play within yourself, but show what you can do. Throw offloads, be adventurous, express yourself. If it goes wrong, don't worry about it, because the championship's over. We've gone up there with a less than full strength side, which looks like Wales will. If you lose, it doesn't matter. So at least go down swinging. If it comes off, then you never know. And I think one way or another, I think if you go up there without Dan Biggar and try to play the sort of methodical, considered game that Biggar is renowned for, then I don't think it works.
If they do want to play that sort of game, Simon, if the weather's bad, is there a chance maybe Sam Davis could even come in and start ahead of Jared?
I don't think he would do, because he just hasn't been part of the camp that long. Obviously, he was involved against the Barbarians in November, came off the bench there. But it only has, by his own admission, has only had a couple of days in camp. Jared's been there. I think it'd be unfair on Jared as well. He deserves his chance because his cameos are so good. I think back 2 years ago at Twickenham, when Wales had a very difficult opening hour, if you remember, and the game really changed in the second half when Anscombe came on the fly half and played the kind of ball-in-hand running game that Jared would play as well, and stretched England. I think Matt's right. If you try and get in the arm wrestle with them and play a territorial kicking game or play a sort of ball-carrying game, you are probably going to struggle. You saw how Ireland, who did a number on Wales physically, were then absolutely out-muscled by England at Twickenham. So I think Wales, and the way Wales are playing now with the offloading game, Jared fits into it. I think he's one of the most dangerous, one of the most talented players with ball in hand in the Northern Hemisphere. He's that good. Now, over the years, his challenge has been developing around a more rounded, complete game. When he first came into the Blues, I think he himself to admit his kicking out of hand was a work in progress. But he has worked on that, but still his great strength is his running game, his ability to bring people in. He's exciting to watch, but for him to have that kind of impact, Wales need ball, and I keep coming back to it. The speed of ball and the breakdown is the area that concerns me and makes me wonder whether they will throw Josh Navidi straight into this game.
Indeed, a name that keeps on cropping up in terms of the number 10 position and the options is Callum Sheedy, Matt, who obviously playing very well at Bristol. Do we see him as a genuine contender to maybe be called up ahead of Sam Davis, or is that nailed on to be Sam Davis if it comes to it?
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I saw the cross kick that he put in on the weekend and on the highlights, and I just thought to myself, just pick him, just bring him in, because that's absolute class. But when you sit down and you think about it, as Simon touched on, Sam Davis has been in and around the camp a lot in the last few months, knows the way everything works. Callum Sheedy would be coming in very cold in terms of understanding the environment. I've not heard anything about him being involved in any camps or meetings before Pivac came in. So he would be coming in pretty cold. I think it would be a big ask for him to come in and then go straight to Twickenham, but you can't doubt the guy's quality. Every time I see anything of him playing, whether it's a full game or just the highlights, he just oozes class.
I've watched him play since he was 15 and 16 years old. I remember him getting Corpus Christi to the Welsh Schools final virtually on his own. He's one of the most gifted players I've seen at age group rugby, and he's worked his way gradually through at Bristol. He went to Clifton College, obviously, at Millfield possibly, college in England, and worked his way through at Bristol, and is now his absolute first choice there in a team that's third in the English Premiership, and he's been key to that. But of course, he is qualified for 3 countries.
He is indeed.
He's qualified for Wales through being Cardiff born and bred. He's qualified through Ireland through his family connections, and now he's qualified for England on residency. And he's played for England, but he was in a non-cap game. I've spoken to Callum a few times about this over the last few years.
He's never got a straight answer, have you?
He's a lovely lad, Callum, but he's bright boy as well. And the phrase he kept on using to me, I'll cross that bridge when I come to it, and metaphorically as physically as well if he had to play for Wales. The bottom line, mate, someone's got to ask him, haven't they? Someone's got to ask him, and it doesn't look like he's been asked, because the impression we're getting is that Sam Davis is next cab off the rank, and that's fair enough, because Sam's played really well this season. And you could argue, if you've got 2 players both vying for it, perhaps they should go for the Welsh-based player. Somebody who could have chosen to go to England last season when he was out of contract with the Ospreys, decided to stay in Wales, probably on less money at the Dragons than he could have got in England, worked hard, played well. He's helped the Dragons to 5 wins in the league this season, unheard of for them at this point of the season. I think he probably deserves to be there.
Okay, let's move on to our next topic then. Reports over the last day or so that the Six Nations look set to go behind a paywall, a £300 million deal with Sky that would take it off BBC and ITV. Interested to get your thoughts on this, so please do send us your comments around this issue. A good thing, a bad thing? Lots of people up in arms saying it cannot.
You have strong opinions on this, Matthew, don't you?
Well, no. So
yes, you do.
Yes, I do in many ways. But I like to see the full staircase before I take the first step, John. That's the kind of bloke I am. So I don't like heading into the unknown, which a move to Sky would be. We've talked about it at length all day, all morning in the office. You don't know quite what effect putting the sport behind the paywall has on the sport until you do it. So that worries me. But similarly, when you see people coming out and using cricket as an example, cricket's popularity has got far more to do with a lot of other things, not just the fact that it's behind a paywall. I accept that probably contributes to the way that the participation figures have gone, but there's also wider societal issues that come into play. To play cricket, you've got to give up a whole day, for example, in many respects. I know since they've shortened the form of the game, all the rest of it, but cricket has got problems elsewhere in terms of its popularity with the wider public at large. Another point that Simon's touched on, and we've seen on Twitter a lot today as well, is if this is such a big issue and so many people care so deeply about it, then why would there be such an issue with them paying a bit of money to watch the games? And as we've said, Sky aren't going to turn around. I think it would be foolish if Sky, for example, if they got these rights, to turn around and then say you have to pay a monthly subscription to us 12 months a year. No, they're going to, if they've got any sense about them, they could a Six Nations package where you've got to pay, I don't know, 50 quid or whatever it may be to watch the Six Nations this year, and that will then work out, not a lot per game. But as I've said, the step into the unknown makes a lot of people, including myself, pretty uncomfortable. But there's 300 million reasons there to do it.
Yeah. Why is it not a protected event, Simon?
I've got my glasses on, John, which must mean I have something to read here.
Because lots of things are, aren't they? Lots of sporting events.
A few facts to start with. The existing deal was a joint deal, BBC and ITV, as we know. They share the rights at the moment. That was done in 2016. It's £90 million a year. That runs out in 2021, and the bidding process is underway. I believe it's until March the 10th or March the 15th, around about that mark, that companies, broadcasting companies, can put their tenders in. So we're right in the mix of it now. It's decision time for the Six Nations is coming up. Now, the big change has been, as we understand it, that the decision has been made that you can no longer have joint bids. So BBC and ITV, or maybe Channel 4, Channel 5 even, can't group together to put all their money into one pot. So that does mean leave them more vulnerable to a big offer from a pay TV company. And we understand, Peter Jackson's written the story, the Doyen, and he's got good contacts, Peter, and he's writing that they seem to be favourites. £300 million, lots of money. Now the question is, why is there anything that stops the Six Nations doing this? That's the question, isn't it? Well, no, there isn't, because the Six Nations, as a championship, as a tournament, doesn't have the same protected rights as the sporting events. Now, you hear a lot here about the A list and the B list. Well, what does that mean? Well, there's a Category A series of sporting events which have to be available on free-to-air television. Now, if we look at it, we've got these here, Matt, in front of us. You were making some interesting comments with it. Football, for example, we've got the Olympics anyway. The Olympics and the Paralympics, guaranteed. You've got the Football World Cup, and you've got the European Championships. Wales are going to be involved in this.
Rugby World Cup final.
Rugby World Cup final, FA Cup final. Then some interesting ones. Challenge Cup final in Rugby League. What do you think about that one?
It's personal preference, but I think the Six Nations is more important than the Challenge Cup final.
Grand National?
I'd leave the Grand National in there.
Epsom Derby?
That's gone for me. But I think I can see the merits of all the other ones.
Wimbledon Championship finals?
Yeah, keep them.
Keep them.
I don't like my tennis.
A bit of tennis.
Like a bit of tennis in the summer, yeah.
But the serious point is that then Six Nations isn't in that list. It's in Category B. And what's Category B? Well, that basically means that it can be shown on pay television, provided secondary rights are available to pay, to not free-to-air. So that would mean you either have highlights or delayed coverage. The same as you've got now with the cricket, the Test match cricket and the World Cup cricket. You could use the example of Premiership Rugby. The occasional Premiership Rugby game is on TV, but essentially it's on BT, and then you get the highlights package. You've got other things like the Open Championship in golf, the Ryder Cup. Has to be highlights, but no guaranteed free-to-air coverage. Now, I spoke to Kevin Brennan, the MP for Cardiff West, this morning, because Kevin's been very heavily involved in this. He tabled a question in Parliament asking the media and sport secretary, essentially the government, to consider whether the Six Nations, given its importance, particularly culturally in Wales, should be on that protected day list. Now, the government has said no. They have no plans to change it. So that's where we are. It's not going to be protected. The Six Nations Committee can sell it to Sky if they want to, and every pundit and every politician and every punter out there's got a strong opinion about it. I'd say 80 to 90% of the feedback I've seen is it'd be a bad thing. The intangible bit for me, and this is the bit that really I think needs to be looked at, is what would be the impact in terms of youngsters not being able to see their heroes playing rugby on the Six Nations, because I personally think, having the experience I've had been involved with junior rugby bit, is that it is a big thing for kids seeing the Six Nations as something to get them into the sport. Proving that definitively,
it's almost impossible.
You've got the Six Nations have two duties. There's a duty to monetize the game and to bring in as much cash as they can, because all that essentially goes back into running the domestic game. They've also got another hand on the duty, which is to promote the game and to build it and grow it. How do you balance the two things?
They've got a couple of comments coming in on that which fit the theme really. Pauline saying a move to Sky will mean the end of the Six Nations for an awful lot of people. Paul says it will be the death of Welsh rugby and for people who can't afford it.
Matthew?
You have a slightly different view, don't you?
Slightly different. These comments I think are very easy to throw out there. Like I said, the move behind the paywall is unknown, but I think that's exaggerated. If people can't afford it, then this could also have a positive impact on rugby clubs and pubs. Those businesses are suffering a lot in recent years because of other factors. But put in something like the Six Nations behind the paywall, if they pay a Sky subscription or whatever,
but
then
very
you've
expensive
got to go to the
though for a business to get a Sky subscription.
Everyone's got to make money somewhere. At the end of the day,
There's a question here. Are you entitled to have it free to air? Yeah, is it a right to have it free to air? Now, I put this out there. Sonia McLaughlin, BBC, tweeted back to me and say people pay with their licence fees. That's a fair point, isn't it? But then probably if you get down to the numbers and how much of your licence fee actually goes towards that, I think it's 42 pence a year each. So it's all relative, isn't it? Kevin Brennan pointed to the example of his 90-year-old mother who watches the rugby. She's not realistically, I guess, going to go down the rugby club or down the pub to watch it. Yeah. And it means a hell of a lot to her. And there are a lot of, and we're not a hugely rich nation, and there are probably a lot of people who wouldn't be able to afford to do it. And on the other hand of the coin, we're the great rugby-mad Welsh rugby nation, and everyone gets up in arms. When you suggest them they've got to pay for it, they don't want to know. So there's two sides to this, aren't there?
There are two more comments. I don't know what they say, so we'll take a punt to see which side they fall on. Angela says the only people who will be pleased will be the pubs who have Sky on big screens. Sadly, general supporters are being priced out of the game. Too expensive for tickets to go to the stadium, and now you have to pay to watch at home. Gareth says, that will be the end of my family's rugby watching experience. Something that's been tradition like Christmas to us. Plenty of people I know can't afford Sky and will not go to the pub to watch it.
You don't know how much they're going to charge for it, though. This is what I'm saying. If they turn around and say you've got to pay £3 to watch a game of rugby, right? They won't tell you that, but it will be enclosed in this package. Yeah. They're not, if they've got any sense about them, going to make customers buy Sky Sports every month throughout the year. They will produce some form of a package, and you're not going to be paying, I don't know what it is, £25 a month all year round. That's not going to be the case. Whilst I say this, I am conflicted because I think the Six Nations should be on that A list and it should be protected.
You're not happy about that Epsom Derby?
It's not for me. It's not to say I've got nothing against people who enjoy horse racing, but I think if we're a rugby mad nation, which we all say we are,
well, we're not, are we?
People say they're up in arms about this. Then if I turn around to you and say £3 to watch Wales against England at Twickenham on Saturday, how much do you love rugby? I get that there are financial constraints and things like that, but I don't think it's the death knell that people are making out.
Let's be honest, we're a rugby mag nation 6 or 7 days of the year. The person there has just said that's our only rugby watching experience.
Yeah.
Now, that's a reality, and in a way that's a concern for me, that there is such a focus on the Six Nations, and that so many people who are up in arms about this watch no other rugby during the year, and probably put no money whatsoever into the rugby. And the Six Nations are now, well, you're not putting any money in. There's somebody here, Mr. Murdoch's prepared to put a lot of money in.
Yeah.
Decision time.
Final word from Hugh, who says, would the money Sky pay for the rights go back into grassroots rugby in Wales, which I suppose it would in a way.
Very simple answer to that. The money to grassroots rugby in Wales is already ring-fenced and guaranteed £11.7 million. There's a strong argument that if there is greater finance available, the area that particularly needs it is the pro game. But clearly, if you get a big windfall, it'll be up to the WRU to dispense it as they see fit.
Yeah, okay. Let's briefly finish on coronavirus, as you do. Big meeting. Oh, goodness me. Good big meeting going on today.
That's a real cough as well.
Between all of the Six Nations. We don't know what's going to come out of that as of yet. But the future of the tournament does seem to be, on the line to a certain extent, doesn't it?
Yeah,
this year, anyway.
It does. I mean, you're seeing, I'm no medical expert, but you're seeing cases popping up now in London. We've had some in Wales as well. This is something now that is no longer contained in Europe. It's no longer, in Asia. It's going around the world, and you don't know how severe this problem is and how fast it's going to spread, things like that. But clearly, there is an issue in a lot of places where people are saying you shouldn't. We've seen France now clamping down on gatherings of 5,000 people or more. Yeah. We've seen sporting events cancelled in France and Italy.
So the UK government said yesterday that it's something they're considering could happen, a ban on mass sporting events like the Six Nations game.
Yeah, we've got to be careful, we don't want to scaremonger, and you'll have to wait and see what the government come out with later on. But right now, the future of the tournament this year is not clear.
If you're going to put 74,000 people into a little bowl, it's probably not the greatest idea when you've got a virus going around, is it?
No.
You've got to think about, Six Nations is important, as our last topic discussed, but there are certain things that are more important.
One game has already been cancelled, if more to follow. Very briefly, when will we find the time to play them?
It's very difficult. 2001, when there was a foot and mouth, we moved to September and October. The calendar is more congested than ever now. In a way, if you simplify that, as if France just won the lot, then we can cancel it.
Well, there's money involved, isn't there, for positions?
£2 million.
There's
£2 million pounds for each game as well, in terms of the money raised through the matches, the people through the turnstiles drinking. It's really difficult.
Tough one. Okay, thanks, chaps. Thank you all for joining us. Thanks for all your comments and questions. We'll be back again tomorrow, same time, same place. See you then.